Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Upswing's free webinar today. My name is Elena Carroll, and I am the VP of Corporate Development and Marketing at Upswing. We are so excited to kick off our fall webinar series with today's topic about mental health. Today, we're joined by some great speakers from Jefferson State Community College to talk about how they made mental health matter. When student leaders raise concerns about the rising rates of depression, anxiety, and other mental health challenges, Jefferson State partnered with them to explore solutions that went far beyond traditional counseling services. Together, students, administrators, faculty, and staff work side by side, proving that mental health support requires the involvement of the entire campus community. Before we dig into that, I did want to just review a few housekeeping items about today's webinar. So first of all, we love to always learn where our audience is coming from today. If you don't mind, just take a minute and let us know where you are coming from in the chat. I am logging in today from Raleigh, North Carolina. While you're doing that, I wanted to let you all know that we are recording today's webinar. If you have to leave early or you want to listen to the webinar again or share it with a friend, you'll receive the recording in the next couple of days. Last but certainly not least, we want to make sure that this webinar is as interactive as possible, and we value your opinions and your questions. So please post any questions that you have throughout the session in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll make sure to address them at the end. I know that we have some new folks to Upswing in our audience today, and I also wanted to just take a second and share a little bit about our mission. Upswing was co-founded by Melvin Hines, who is our current CEO. Melvin founded Upswing on the premise that all students, regardless of their background, should have access to services and support that they need to graduate. Today, we're continuing that mission and are very proud to serve non-traditional and historically marginalized students at community colleges, HBCUs, HSIs, universities, and nonprofit organizations. We help our students achieve their graduation goals by providing wraparound support for tutoring, advising, mental health, basic needs, and more, all within one accessible platform. On average, Upswing helps our partners retain up to 78 students each year, which means more students reach graduation day and can go onwards towards a better future. However, and this is why we're here today, we know that the journey to graduation is really hard for so many students. At Upswing, we recognize that academic support is only part of what today's students need to be successful. We know that mental health in particular is a huge issue for a lot of the students that we serve. In fact, we hear about it each day from the students that are reaching out to us through Anna, our virtual SMS assistant. Getting that help and feeling heard can really make the difference between going to class one day and stopping out the next. So, hearing and listening to students is actually one of the reasons that I am so excited for today's webinar. I'm going to introduce our administrator speaker, Dr. Liesl House Harris from Jefferson State Community College. Dr. Harris is entering her 26th year of teaching at Jefferson State Community College in Birmingham, Alabama, where she also serves as Associate Dean of Transfer in General Studies. She serves as chapter advisor to Beta Lambda Delta, an award-winning chapter of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society. Liesl holds a BA in English and History from Samford University and an MA in English from the University of Alabama at Huntsville. She received her PhD in American Literature from the University of Illinois. So, Dr. Harris, I'm so grateful for you being here today with a couple of your colleagues as well as a student. And we are just so excited to hear all of the great information that you have to share. So, welcome and thank you for being here today. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can start sharing and get started.
Thank you so much, and thank you to Upswing for hosting us. This is an important topic, and we are happy to talk about it. Let me start by just telling you a little bit about Jefferson State. As mentioned, it's in Birmingham. We have about 10,500 students on 4 different campuses, and we are urban, suburban, and rural. So we serve a variety of students. We're very diverse in terms of ethnicity, the ages of our students, socioeconomic bracket. We have students who are working on transfer degrees and want to go to a 4-year school to complete their education. And then we have students in workforce classes that will go directly to jobs. So I kind of tell people we're a typical community college and that there's no such thing as a typical community college. Community colleges are exciting places because they are so diverse, and we are really proud that we are kind of a door for education that a lot of students would not go to college if it weren't for community college. So we're really proud of making education accessible and affordable. And as mentioned, I sponsor Phi Theta Kappa. If you're not familiar with Phi Theta Kappa, it is the Honor Society of Tutor Schools. One thing every Phi Theta Kappa chapter around the world does is once a year works on something called a college project. And this is done in conjunction with the school's administration. And it's a project, it's more than a service project. The goal is to help fulfill the mission of the college. Well, our mission is to educate students, but we quickly realize we can't do that if our students are depressed, if they're anxious. It's hard to concentrate on your studies when you're dealing with mental health issues. So we wanted to reach out to students. So that's how this program started. And what you're going to hear about, we like to think of it as a comprehensive program and as tiers, or more think of it as a pyramid, different levels of mental health services and different points where students can enter into the conversation and receive services.
Hi, my name is Charles Johnson. I'm a student here at Jefferson State Community College. I also serve as an officer for Pi Theta Kappa in the Beta Lambda chapter. I'm studying management to educate and support students struggling with mental health challenges. As a survivor myself, I would like to say this is my calling and why I'm here. In recent years, studies show that about 70% of students have struggled with mental health since starting college, according to data from the US News Survey. That's just true here at Jefferson State Community College. 7 in 10 have experienced stress or anxiety, and a third of students have experienced depression, family concerns, or relationship problems.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaliyah Boone, and I am the Director of Student Success here at Jefferson State Community College. So I'm going to be speaking to why we need resources. So our area, the Student Success Center, provides a range of different services to students that aim to support a student's success from a holistic perspective. And that's what we call wraparound services. These services include access to mental health counseling and resources, as well as emergency grant assistance for students who find themselves in a financial hardship, and an on campus food pantry to any of our students who may be dealing with food insecurity. Throughout the pandemic, our institution's leaders were able to see an even greater need for these services, and that is how the Student Success Center came to life so that Jefferson State could help the students as they deal with the demanding nature of college life. It's no secret that today's college students are balancing far more than classes, and so we recognize that it is incredibly difficult for our students to show up successfully inside the classroom while they're struggling to navigate real life challenges outside the classroom. Emotional well being and academic performance, we know, are deeply intertwined. Therefore, providing such resources for our campus community is truly critical for our students to be successful and for their overall well being.
Are we well equipped? I believe Jefferson State Community College is more equipped today than ever before, thanks to our partnerships and various reliable resources. The Beta Lambda Delta chapter has helped implement these programs at Jefferson State to support struggling students and to raise awareness and educate them about the help provided by our school. Here are our solutions. School counseling resources, mental health happy hour, suicide prevention, and ACCS system-wide health.
Okay, so here I'll start talking about some of the specific things we offer and got a little click happy, so sorry about that. We practice and then get the slides up, but I think we're back on track. One thing I was talking about Jeff State is diverse, and so we do serve all ages, but we have a lot of what you would call traditional age college students. People love to kind of wag their finger about these kids today, which generations have done as long as there have been kids. But one thing I would say about these kids today is, unlike some previous generations, I think they're more open to talking about mental health. I'm more willing to seek help. So I think that's admirable. But sometimes seeking help can still be a stigma, or even if it's not a stigma, someone may not know where to start. They may think, I can't afford to seek help. So we wanted to start our sort of bottom foundational level of our tier or pyramid, an easy way for people to enter into the conversation about mental health. So we did something called a mental health happy hour. We have these once a month at our Jefferson and Shelby campuses. Those are our two largest campuses, and we're working to bring them to our other two campuses as well. We meet around the lunch hour. We usually bring in pizza. That's a nice draw for students, a free lunch and just a time to relax. We partner with a group called the Addiction Prevention Coalition, and they provide a licensed counselor, and he or she speaks on a topic for an hour. This past week, we talked about the use of cannabis and how it's up and how a lot of students are using cannabis as a coping mechanism and maybe looking at better strategies to cope. We've covered things like setting boundaries, self-care, positive and negative uses of social media. Social media can be great, but a lot of studies show as students compare themselves to the seemingly perfect lives that other students post, and that can lead to anxiousness or self-shaming. And so it's just a way to talk in a really non-threatening, casual way about mental health issues. The counselor is usually also available afterwards if a student wants to meet one-on-one, maybe make a private appointment or get more information about where he or she would go to get the next step. So again, it's just a fun, low-key, but important kind of doorway to mental health. We also found that it was important for us, in addition to looking at the student body as a whole, to kind of target specific groups of students who might need additional help. We've been working on this for about 5 years. One of the first groups that we focused on 5 years ago was our LGBTQ community, which at the time and in the Deep South could still be, some people might not like that, but research showed members of the LGBTQ community face more bullying and are at risk of depression or anxiety or even suicidal ideation. So we sponsored allyship training to help us learn how to make Jeff State to be a warm, welcoming environment. We first called it safe zone training, and this is where working with experts is important. We found out really quickly safe zone wasn't the preferred term because that kind of sounds like I'm trained, I'm done, and allyship training emphasized more this is an ongoing thing. You're always learning, you're always growing. We did, as you can see from the slide, bystander intervention. Let's say a student or staff or faculty member is in a violent situation domestically, how to intervene safely. We have done workshops such as preventing and then responding to sexual assault. Um, and we've done suicide prevention. We did this just last week. We had a seminar on suicide prevention, and it was powerful. As we were talking, a young man in attendance just said, well, the first time I tried to attempt suicide was 10 years ago. And the last time I thought about it seriously was last month. And you could have heard a pin drop. But we were so grateful that we created a space where he felt comfortable being vulnerable and revealing that to us. And because he did it, we were able to get him some help and to support him, let him know that there are people here at school that care about him. So that's kind of our second tier. The first tier is, mental health happy hours for everyone. The second tier, identifying subgroups we can reach out to specifically, and those are always changing. And then this is really important. We've done something called mental health first aid. This is primarily for faculty and staff. And let me say what this means. Just like you learn physical first aid, this is mental health first aid. I'll use myself as an example. I am not a healthcare provider. I am not a clinician. I am not a trained counselor. It would be inappropriate for me to try to provide counseling services to a student. I'm not trained in that, and I'm also too close to that student. But often faculty and staff members, while we're not clinicians, we may be a first responder. What happened last week at the suicide prevention seminar is a good example. We may be the first person the student meets. And so we learn how to administer first aid, how to do just enough to stabilize the person, to keep the person safe until we can get that student to a professional. So that's really important, acknowledging we don't have all the answers and we're not first aid professionals, but we can provide enough assistance to try to keep that student safe. And I think Aaliyah is going to talk about some of the services that the college itself, this kind of started at the chapter level, then the college came and walked along with us and really provided some things that we as a student group couldn't do by ourselves.
Thank you, Liesl. So, even with the programs and services that Liesl referenced, as she stated, our administration and other college leaders recognized more of a comprehensive approach to how we address students and their mental health. And so I'm going to talk about each of these platforms in a little more detail. So one of the platforms that's offered to all of our students is through a partnership known as Together All. Through Together All, our students have free access to a safe and confidential peer community where they can get support whenever they're, feeling low. It's 24 hours access, and students can, they can join Together All from their smartphone, or they can join from their laptops, utilizing their Jeff State login credentials. Together All is really unique in that it's set up like a social media platform. And so students can anonymously create an account so that they don't have to just put themselves completely out there, but they can anonymously create an account. They can write on walls, just like if it's like a Facebook post or something like that, or they can also chat more in private with a licensed mental health professional. Something else really unique about Together All is that students can log on and do self-assessments to be able to kind of assess where they are. And there are specific courses that are related just to different things, all things mental health. And if there's ever a time that a student posts something on a wall, or they post something that's a little bit alarming, there are licensed professionals who manage this 24 hours out of the day. And if there's a student that ever, shares something that's alarming, our area is notified, as well as other college officials, just so that we can step in with the more thorough outlook on that. Secondly, we have a partnership with Employee Assistance Services. So as faculty and staff of the college, we have access to free mental health counseling. And within the past couple of years, Jefferson State actually created a contract so that we could expand those counseling services, not just for faculty and staff, but for our students. And so through employee assistance services, all Jeff State students, and that's whether they're on campus or if they're any of our virtual learners, they qualify to receive confidential counseling services. And this can be face to face, via telehealth, or even telephone counseling. And I know Liesl made mention to how we do have a very diverse, we have non-traditional students as well as traditional students. And the unique thing about all of our counseling services is that they're tailored to meet students exactly where they are. Because some of our students, can't physically walk into a counseling office, but being able to meet with the therapist, just telehealth is just showing just how accessible we try to make our services. And last but not least, within the past academic year, the Alabama Community College system in Jefferson State is an institution within that system. They also took an approach to targeting students in their mental health. And so we now have a partnership with You Will, as you see here. And it is another service where our students can get access to a therapist, and it's immediate access. Unique thing about You Will is that our students can choose based on their preferences. And so they can choose based off of whatever the issue is they're facing. They can choose based off gender, language, and identity. And again, it's tailored for students to be able to join or access a therapist at a time that works for them. And our students do have 24-hour access. So if a student, is looking to get counseling services, they reach out directly to our area, the Student Success Center. Because Jefferson State does not have an on-campus counselor or an on-campus counseling center, we then, share these resources with students. We make referrals, faculty and staff who maybe interact with students, inside the classroom or through student groups can also make referrals to our area. And we provide these links, we provide these phone numbers, and just kind of walk students through the process for being able to access these counseling services that they may need.
We want to talk about some of our results. Aaliyah, I think you have some numbers you can share with us.
Absolutely. So when pulling the data from both our student usage on Together All and You Will, what we found was that the top selected reasons for why our students reach out for mental support at Jeff State, it's due to stress, anxiety, depression, family concerns, and relationship problems. And so those are the top reasons why our students reach out. And a former student who had used the You Will platform had this to say. He said that I used the service about 4 times and it got me through a really tough time. I got to choose who I wanted to talk to, and I could meet with that counselor at a time that was easy for me. And that just further exemplifies just how user friendly these platforms are, and the fact that students do appreciate being to meet with someone that looks like them, or maybe someone that they know they can relate to.
Right. Charles, do you have any feedback on any of these services?
Yes. I can say what 2013, 14. I lost my father to cancer. It was pretty much a hard time of my life at that time. I was in high school. Yes, we talked about the age groups. I am old. I am 28. So uh, that was pretty much a real rough time in my life. Me and my dad didn't really have the closest relationship that I wanted. So after he passed, I pretty much downfall. Like my grades fell. I was in and out of high school. I got hospitalized probably like 4 or 5 times for suicidal thoughts, even a couple suicide attempts. So all of this means so much to me is because I was actually around others. I was on the football team. So one thing I can say with all the help that we have here at Jeff State, we want to destroy the stigma behind anything about getting mental health, because me being around people and people able to come and hold my hand and cry with me and love on me during that time actually has helped me come back into school, actually use my pain to help other people come back to school or whatever season that you're in life to help you push through those hard times. There's death, there's financial. I was like, we all have testimonies, but I was like, me personally, this means a lot to me. This is why I'm pursuing healthcare management. And That's pretty much all I have to say.
And I have watched Charles show such empathy and be a servant leader to other students. My feedback is I have used the counseling. In 2023, my mother passed away. And then the following year, one of my cats passed away. When the cat passed away, I think it just kind of tripped some grief I had pushed down with my mom. So I did counseling. It was via Zoom, which I wondered would that work before because I've done in-person therapy before, and it worked very well. Really helped me with my grief. What I didn't know was this that was setting me up for in January 20th of this year, my husband passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. He said, I need to go to the ER, and an hour later, he was gone. So my life basically exploded. But because I already had a relationship with this counselor, I was able to jump back in. The foundational work was already done, and Jess was able to work with her. I have an appointment with her next week, so it was really a lifesaver. Another testimony I can give is with the mental health first aid. I learned to do some things that seem, it's not a natural thing to do, but it's important. We had an employee in crisis. He just left school, which was not like him. Left school, he was gone. We had him on the phone. I asked the question, are you thinking about suicide? They taught us to do that in first aid. You don't want to say it. You go like, no, I'm going to put that idea in their head. No, if they're thinking about suicide, it's already there. So you need to ask, be direct. I found the courage to ask the question, are you thinking about suicide and self-harm? He said yes. Because of that, we were able to get him immediate help, and he's still here and doing well. But those are just some examples of how this has impacted me. So I'm really proud of this. I would also say if we can do it, you can, because community colleges are wonderful institutions. We're not the richest institutions in the world, but we've found a way to do it again with all these entry points where students can get the help they need. So that's what we have, and I think we're gonna do some Q&A now.
Yes. First of all, I just want to thank, Charles and you, Liesel, and both of you just sharing such personal, stories as well as aspects to mental health support. I think that that means a lot, just hearing your own personal experiences and, how you've been willing to open up and share that. I'm sure not just with us, but with all of the students and faculty and staff that you're working with. And that was really brave. So thank you both for that. I appreciate it. I do want to encourage folks, if you have some specific questions, to add them to the chat. I know that we have some questions as well, but I do see that we already have one in there. So I'm going to go ahead and read this to you all. Colin is asking, I may have missed this, but how often are you offering mental health happy hours?
Once a month.
Once a
And
month.
they've been well attended, and people we have some people that come every month. It's their thing. So once a month.
And as Liesl stated, our Jefferson campus and our Shelby Hoover campus are our largest campuses. And so Liesl and her chapter, they sponsor it there. And here on our Jefferson main campus, they're here in the Student Success Center as well.
That's great. I know something that I was really curious about, with what you all shared, and I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit about it, is, you all landed on a multi-tiered approach to help your students. And I was just curious how you landed on the specific solutions that you found. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think just kind of being in tune with student needs and research. One thing Phi Theta Kappa does is our other major project is called Honors in Action, which is a research-based project. So some of it is earlier we did a project about the LGBTQ community, but that revealed the need for services, so there's some overlap. But I think just being sensitive to the and listening to what people are telling you about what they're going through.
That's great. Thank you. Another thing I was really curious about, because we often get asked about, student engagement and how to get the word out about solutions. I was wondering if you all could share, like, how do you tell people about your happy hours and all of the available resources? It's so hard, I think, to get in touch with students these days. Everybody's very busy and, have very different priorities. So I was curious about that.
I can speak to that. Of course, one of the ways our institution, we do have new student orientation. And so those happen like in the summertime leading into the fall semester. And we're getting ready for a fall orientation for students that will enroll in the spring. And so during new student orientation, faculty and staff get before incoming students, and we just share all of the services that are offered. Additionally, I work very closely. I know Lisa works very closely with our media relations teams, and so they send out campus announcements. And so that campus announcements is a really big way in how we share about the mental health happy hours that are happening. The college recently hired someone that focuses specifically on student communications. And so we have the capability to text students now. So there's texts that go out. I have students, if students are in the Student Success Center, I'll ask, well, how did you hear about today's event? And they say, oh, well, I got a text. I also, rely heavily on our student groups. We have a student government association. And so anytime we're having events in the area, or we just want to publicize our resources, I'll send it to the liaison that, oversees our student groups, and just word of mouth. As students are in and out of our area, we still rely heavily on putting flyers up around campus. I know that helps. And just making sure that high traffic areas do have the graphics printed, I think has been really helpful in helping us to get the word out.
Mhm. That's great. Thank you so much. And again, if anybody in the audience out there has any questions for anyone here, please add them to the Q&A. My last question that I wanted to ask you all was about the mental health aid, because I think that this is something that really spoke to me as something that can be really impactful, given that faculty are the ones that, are really on the ground with students and in contact with them on a regular basis. Um, from your own faculty's perspective, what was their response to introducing this training? And then also, just kind of relying on them to be eyes and ears on the ground for you all whenever, they're interacting with students. So it's just, again, something, if you all don't mind expanding on a bit.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, faculty and staff tend to be very empathetic people. Um, if anything, they try to do too much, and we really want to emphasize be empathetic and caring, but don't try to act as that mental health provider, because that could be a disaster. You're not trained to do that, um, but listen and be aware of the services we have available so you can direct them. We have a food pantry, we have emergency grants, we have counseling available, whether you want private counseling or group counseling. The peer groups and Together All, just making them aware of the multiple ways we can help them without trying to overstep and serve as that provider, just because it's really important that a professional do that. At the same time, you don't want the faculty member just to wash their hands. It's like, that's not I'm a teacher. I teach history or economics or whatever. Like, that's true, but life happens. And when life happens for your student or colleague, you need to be able to walk with them in a kind, caring way and steer them towards the help that's available.
Right. I don't think this is necessarily a question, but I'm just going to read it out loud. Says, I love your vulnerability while sharing your experiences. I've encountered people who think they are the only ones going through difficult times. Hearing how others have overcome helps us to be more open to help. Thank you for this. I wish there were more opportunities to volunteer.
Yeah. I want to tell a story real quick about Charles. At one of our chapter meetings, we had a student, we have a group text. And right after the meeting, he texted us, I'm so sorry, I'm neurodivergent. I was probably awkward in the meeting. Should I even come back? And Charles, he was the first one to respond and said, we're all working on ourselves. We're a family, no one's left behind. And so I just saw that empathy in action. So I know Charles is going to do great things in life. I just know it. He already has, but I can't wait to see you just fly.
That's wonderful. Charles, if I can maybe just ask you a question. I mean, it sounds like you're just doing amazing things, supporting your peers and being there for other students. Maybe what would be your advice for other students, like to maybe fill those shoes as well? Like, is there anything they can do, to help their peers in times of need, or any advice you'd give to them?
Me being a football guy, I would always say that everybody has a role to play. So when I went through my suicidal situation, my friends honestly got me the help I needed. I was coming to practice every day. I was going to school every day, and they saw that I was not being myself. So eventually they told the coach, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of upset that they told the coach because I tried to keep it in a circle. And the coach approached me and I pretty much didn't really say as much. And then they got involved. I mean, my actual position coach that I had a better relationship with, I opened up to him, and that's when they immediately got me help. That's when my parents got involved. That's when I started going to the hospital. That's when I started seeing a therapist. I actually still see my therapist, and that's been 10 years ago. So I was like, I still go to a therapist. I was like, one thing I can say is students, when you get the help, continue to get the help. I was like, healing is an ongoing process. So I was like, us as students, we're probably here before the teachers. We see each other every day. We hang out outside of school every day. We interact. So I was like, when you start seeing your friends not showing up to class, or you might see something small, we all love coffee. They're drinking a little bit too much coffee. They're not getting enough sleep. I was like, we're probably going to see it before the actual before your parents go see it or the teachers. So I was like, us as students, I feel like that we need to act on it first. Your friend might be mad at you, but as long as they're still here and breathing, that's the most important thing. So that's why I say I'm real passionate about this because I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want help, but I thank God every day that I did accept the help. So that's why I'm here. So if I have to be the person that has to be vulnerable, and it's no shame in anything I went through.
Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Um, All right. Well, I guess final call for any questions again from the audience. While we're waiting to see if anybody has anything, do any of you have any final thoughts that you would share with our audience today from your varying perspectives?
Just thank you for having us. And to people out there, what tailor a program to what meets your needs. What works at Jeff State is probably a little different than what will work at your institution. So it's a very tailored approach.
Great. And it does look like we got a question in the chat, someone asking, do you collaborate with academic advisors?
We haven't formally. That's a good idea. But I know a lot of our advisors are at our happy hours, which is good to see. But advisors are also very much first responders. So that's probably a next step we should take.
Wonderful. Any other final thoughts? Okay. I am going to share my screen again. I just wanted to add that if any of you out there are interested in bringing mental health solutions to your campus, Upswing partners with Better Mind to provide one-on-one teletherapy and Together All to provide peer support. We can work with you to find the right solution to supplement what you're currently offering, ready to truly support the student on and off campus. So I want to again just thank our speakers for coming here today and sharing their experiences and their stories. Really appreciate your time and your energy, and again, just your willingness to open up and share some really personal things and your relationship to mental health support, which I think is just so meaningful for everyone out there. So I really want to thank you all for everything you've done to make mental health matter at Jefferson State Community College. I think your stories are really inspirational to everyone. So as a final reminder, we will share a copy of this recording with you all in a day or two. I've included Dr. Harris's email address on this last slide, as well as a QR code that you can scan if you are interested in learning more about Upswing's wraparound student support services. We have some really great webinars in our fall webinar series. I'd encourage you all to go check them out. We have more speakers coming from universities and colleges across the US to share on some different topics, and we'd love to have you all join us there. Outside of that, I hope that everybody has a wonderful day today, and again, we'll get this recording out as soon as we can. All right, take care. All right, bye-bye.